Well, it's been a spectacular season, but we've reached the final week of the CCL regular season. The climatic point where we lead into playoffs in the LCQs is finally here. My name is McCormiel. With me is Cash. Welcome to the Alpha stream here. But Cash, how you feeling the final week of the CCL?
I'm excited going into this final season. I'm stoked for what this week of gameplay leads into playoffs and where teams are going to finally shake out and place, whether it be in playoffs or LCQ. But yeah, we've got a lot of great COD action tonight.
Great COD action. Well, it starts with Colonel Esports up against Redbird COD, the number 22 ranked Redbird COD. And Cash, this is a match that necessarily isn't really for a playoff push. It's more so for seeding when we get into the playoffs, because these teams really aren't necessarily at risk of getting knocked out into the LCQ portion of Tier 1. And I guess that kind of leads me to just kind of address this first and foremost. The way playoffs work this year, if you haven't been keyed into it or you're just joining us for the first time here at CCL, the top teams, or rather the top 8 teams inside of Tier 1 will move on and qualify automatically into playoffs from their specific region. Obviously, there's 4 different regions, 8 teams that are going to make it out and automatically qualify into playoffs. Besides that, though, Cash, the bottom 4 teams in Tier 1 will then be relegated to the LCQ, where every team in Tier 2 and Tier 3 and the top 4 teams of Tier 4 will all be vying for few playoff spots in each region. I believe it's 8. So, you know, you can imagine over 24, maybe almost over 30 teams trying to qualify for 8 different spots to get into playoffs for their specific region. So I really don't need to address and tell you how important it's going to be not only to win your matches, but to get higher seeding in that LCQ as much as humanly possible. So this match, again, it's not necessarily for that LCQ seeding, but it is for playoff seeding. It's going to make your road that much easier once we get into playoffs, depending on how high you finish in your own tier. But speaking of these 2 teams, Cash, let's address it head-to-head. Redbird's Colonel. Obviously, Redbirds are coming off of a great series win against Akron the last time through.
Yeah, they are coming off of a wonderful win, and even though they get a win that great, they are a team that feels as if they, kind of play down to competition at times. A team where if you can come out, if you're Colonel Esports, and really play up to standard, you're going to give this team a run for their money. Of course, looking at the head-to-head, the Redbird COD, they are the standout team here across all modes, specifically in the hardpoint, and then trickling down to the search and destroy. Control is where Colonel can kind of look to take something there, also across those other modes as well. But Colonel stand a real chance here, though on paper it looks a little more drastic. Based on how these teams have played, especially in Stage 2, this is a much more even matchup than it looks.
Yeah, I mean, you look to the side of Colonels, you come in as a hungry team. Whenever you see a team that's going to be higher up on you than in the standings, and of course in the top 25, you're going to prep a little bit harder for that match. You're going to bring a bit more to the table to try and best them specifically before playoffs. This is kind of one of those opportunities where it's perfect to do so, because as you already highlighted, Redbirds is a team that when they're playing top competition, they show out just like they did against Zips last week. However, the main problem that I see with this Redbird team, and as you address again, is the fact that they play down to their competition. If you're looking at the Colonel roster, well, maybe if you're Redbirds, you take this a little bit lighter, especially since there's not much riding in terms of what's important in this series going into playoffs. That could lead to an upset of the Redbirds even, just like they upset the Zips last weekend. So it's not out of the question that Colonels are going to be able to win this series even-handedly, especially if Redbirds can't keep up in the S&D like they did against the Zips.
Exactly, and for Colonel Esports, as you said, Redbird, they may feel like they don't have much to lose. Well, if you're Colonel Esports, it's definitely something you could take advantage of and look to knock them out of top 25. So for Redbird COD, it's how seriously do you want to stay in that top 25 and really just play for that aspect of it. Like you said, playoff is essentially a lock, but for them, just continuing to make their case to climb in the standings going into the postseason.
Well, we met the teams. Let's go ahead and meet the roster specifically for Colonel Esports. We'll start off with Dreco, CMAC, Wasian, and Hunter. We highlight a couple players every week as who to watch out for. One person specifically that I've watched multiple times on this Colonel Esports roster has been Dreco. And not only does he bring a lot to the table in terms of overall slaying, but the pace that Colonels can set off of Dreco can be very important and influential against some of these top teams. Watch for him to be a standout and star in the series.
Definitely. We've had the pleasure of, like you said, watching him a few times, and he's always been someone who can just flip the script for this Colonel Esports squad. But on the other side of that, too, CMAC and Hunter, they play so well in tandem where even if you can stop one, that's some of the time not good enough in a series. You have to find a way to slow down or at least completely get one of them out of the game. Very hard to do whenever they play so well off of each other. If one's not bringing it, the other's going to step up and turn. So it's a duo that they can take over in any mode, and once they get going, you've got to find a way to stop it before the damage becomes too much.
Ping pong over to the side of the Redbirds roster. Again, you saw them last week on the Alpha stream where they did the unthinkable. They won a Game 5, Round 11 against the Akron Zips, who were breaking the top 10, had a really good season going for them. It was maybe a lapse of judgment and/or one of those weeks that they just kind of want to forget. But Leo Bears, Saint, Boost, and Flob, the four-man duo, rather tandem of players who are not only going to enter this game with much to prove, going up against a relatively weaker opponent, opposed to the Zips that they played last week. And of course, you look to Leo Bears, you look to Flob. Those two players specifically are standout. They run the map together, very much similar to CMAC and Hunter as well on the side of Colonel. So, Cash, just quickly run me through what we might see out of this Redbird roster.
Yeah, so from them, of course, you're going to have that clutch factor in this series. If it does go the distance, if Colonel can find the way to push it there, you know that Redbird COD's going to be ready for it and that they're going to have the ability to clutch up. Whenever you clutch up against a team as big as something like Akron last week, I know we keep, pointing back to it, but with a win that big, it can kind of go two ways. Whether the coin falls in the way of now you go too lax and end up having a harder game than you need to make it out to be, or they can just be lit on fire going into this postseason. So from Redbird COD, definitely expect to see a lot of big plays that can close out maps. If things do get in dire situations, expect them to come out on top.
Well, as we'll go ahead and take a look at our overall map set for this series, Cash, there's one thing that stands out more importantly than anything else. It's kind of that eyesore of Gavutu twice. Not to say that the map is a bad map, but more or less it's going to tailor to those long-range AR players on the side of Colonel and Redbirds alike. And whoever's going to win those maps, even Desert Seas plays into that as well. So those first three maps, it's an AR's paradise. It's a playground for them to run around. Those SMGs is going to be difficult for them to get a hot start to this series. So if you're looking to get streaky, or you're looking for those players to at least have a good start to the series, it's very well doable and possible, but it's going to be a lot harder, especially when the ARs could be very oppressive on these maps.
It is, and it's going to come down to who trusts their ARs more and who really knows what lanes they need to lock down. I know, given this late into the CCL season and also this far into Vanguard, you kind of expect to know what lanes to lock, but it's easy to get antsy, and especially whenever tensions are riding high going into the postseason, who's going to play the more fundamental COD, like you said, on maps like this with lanes, as long as these maps have? Who's really going to settle down, get to their power positions, and lock things down for the squad? That's what we're going to see, and who can do that better tonight to come out with a win, because like you said, these first three maps are really going to give us that testament of really kind of slower gameplay in a sense.
Capitalize on the respawns. Try to take the S&Ds against the Redbirds. That's what Colonel Esports have on the docket for themselves. We'll start here on Gavutu. CMAC a couple stuns over the top, vying for position here over by P1. Off the board already. CMAC with a nice double. Everybody else from the side of Redbird COD not going to be able to get on the board with Boost and Flop.
Kill feed goes even to start. Redbird COD do take advantage of P1 spawns as we look further ahead towards P3 here in a couple of hills. Are the way of Colonel Esports. It'd be hard to expect them to hang on to this entirely. Maybe we see a flip or two come in from Redbird COD as they look to push across and make things happen, but in firm control of P1 to start. Getting a fairly clean kill feed is going to be Redbird COD, accruing about 20 seconds of time here off the start before they look to make that rotation over to P2. And for them, it's just been getting those guns warm, looking to get the gunfights kind of going your way. You expect P1 to be scrappy. I also expect Colonel here to take this last bit of scrap time as all of the resources for Redbird COD now focus to both sides.
A few players of Red Arrows. Colonel start to rotate over towards P2 while you got the scrap time back at P1. Flob a one-on-one gunfight, gonna get help from Leo Bears to go ahead and open up P2 for themselves. Nice nade over the top. We'll go ahead and knock the player out of time for now. Redbird still have possession of the boat. Everybody from Colonel Esports is gonna be a bit difficult task to not only break back onto the site, but of course get around, maybe make a flank play. It's just really good map presence right now, Cash.
It is good map presence. They have ring control as well, so really forcing Colonel Esports to funnel through P5 side of the map. They know where they're coming from. They're able to take advantage and start a couple players streaking, Boost on 4 before he's able to fall, but that's just what you want to see early on in a respawn, is players getting loose, feeling out the gunfights and where they need to be on the map. Again, looking up at ring, no one there contesting it, going to try to get through and get spawns for the team, as all of Colonel Esports are trying to focus on really just getting out of spawn at the moment. Redbird COD doing a great job at pressing up beyond the hill, zoning it off, and securing themselves wonderful bits of P2 time. Now going to have a 30-40 point lead as we rotate over to P3. Colonel Esports, they're locked, and given that scrap time up, they're looking to get a good P3.
Lots of great real estate. Nickel State University. To push back up the map now, though, for Redbirds. As you see, the off-screen engagements, players number 5 and 7. That's Saint and Boost trying to wrap all the way around the back. The off-screen kill, though, will go to Hunter, traded out instantaneously. And now through the front, here come the players from Colonel Esports trying to break on in. Redbirds around the corner. C-Mac going to be there. Boost now all the way back, trying to control the spawns. It is going to be there for the Redbirds. Unfortunately, though, the kills have not come in yet, and you've already wasted 25 seconds on this kill. So now if you're Colonel Esports, you're saying, okay, well, we've already got the majority of this hard point. We've got half of it. We can start making this rotation now over towards the left side of the map, while the Redbirds are still going to be forced to run into our ARs.
I love how you framed that. You've got a majority of this time. What could have spelled disaster if Redbird COD jumped on the moment quicker was they could have broken in within 15 seconds of that hard point. They don't. Colonel Esports, they hold on from the front. And now, yeah, chalk up the rotation as far as going back for P3. Get ready for this P4. The spawns are going to come in for Redbird COD at P2, and now you're going to have Colonel Esports spawning out, so they will have to hike across the map. But, hey, you hold it from the front and get a near 60 seconds on that hill. You get yourself a 10-point lead, and you won the gunfights on rotation, something that really you had a hard time doing the last go-around. So for them, that's a win of a hill and a great transition chain over to P4.
And those were such big kills as well, because it was a 3 versus 4 on the site. If you were the Redbirds, you had the numbers there making that push onto the site. You saw the player from Colonel who was all the way back at P3 trying to then make the rotate back over. You get killed off spawn, and now you're back with the rest of your team. So with 38 seconds left, once again, Colonel have already gotten themselves a beginning and initial hardpoint time. You have Hunter at 13 and 8, was on a 4 streak, was almost able to find some streaks, got shut down at the tail end of them. Either way, finally the Redbirds are able to break in, but this is their first hardpoint time since the tail end of P2.
It is, and the Flob made the flank to get the spawns in the back, which, again, I think, as we mentioned in P3, if you're Colonel Esports, you're fine with that. You got 30 seconds of the hard point time. You're still holding it from the front with them spawning deep beach, so now you can just play around that map presence and pressure. Redbird COD, they started off well with that zoning around the map, and since have faltered since P2, now they're on rotation to P4, a little split spawn coming in. Colonel Esports have some people to clear out, but once again, they find themselves on this hill. Redbird COD, they need to find a way to break in early and get a more substantial amount of time.
C-Mac had an opportunity to make a fringe play, but Flob was able to read it out. Now the rotation back over towards P5 is there. First 15 seconds knocked off the clock. The Redbirds are in. They're able to break. It's a 3-for-1 trade that leaves the side of Colonel Esports in a tough situation because you're still going to be spawning close. You got to win the gunfights in the middle of the hill. Plus, the Redbirds still have mid-map presence on the top of the boat. And Leo Bears, when he has the sub in his hands, can still make anything happen. So with 2 quick kills there, now Wations will finally find the trade. You've broken into the hill, but is it too little too late? The answer, at least for now, is no.
It's not. You have control of the kill feed. You have control of P5. You didn't let Redbird COD get all of that time, so they're not able to get back in the game quite yet. Only a 50-point deficit, nothing too drastic, and you got good time on P1 the first go-around. So for Redbird COD, they're by no means out of it, but a good stand for Colonel Esports after this first set of rotations where they started slow. They're now increasing their map pressure. I mean, look at everyone around the map. They have it completely zoned off from beach to P2. It's just a matter of winning the gunfights in their 1v1s. Someone falls, another Colonel Esports player rotates in. Just wonderful adjustments made from Colonel Esports as they now look to extend their lead to over 40 points.
Everybody's having success right now. Colonel Esports, they're getting kills full time. Somebody's making an impact around the map at every given moment. Leo Bear is looking up the staircase. 2 players down from the side of Colonel. Unfortunately, though, you can't win the one-on-one. Saint will trade it out. Not a technical trade, though, as finally the last will go down. The Redbirds have broken in towards the front of the hill. C-Mac was the last one there, but again, traded out. So now you look at it, you can start to settle down a bit. 25 seconds left. Yeah, the rotation over towards P2 is great. But, Cash, this is kind of the similar situation to where they were in the first set of rotations, where from P1 to P2, it was good. After that, they kind of all fell apart.
Exactly, but this time they find themselves in a 30-point deficit, and they lost the last 10 seconds of scrap time. So for Redbird COD, it's got to be better than P1 and P2. They have to find a way to chain, or at least get more of these hills in succession. Find a way to get hill time on every single one of these. P2, they had a really great hold. Colonel Esports, you know they're going to make the adjustment to try to get into this one early, but you can close this gap and take the lead with a good bit of time here. P2, I expect to be much closer than that, but for Redbird COD, you're winning the gunfights in and around the site at the moment. Can you hold off this wave of Colonel Esports coming now?
Right in the kill feed. Boost finally able to cut that just for a second. Top of the boat, you have control. You're looking in towards the point to try and go head for the contestation. We'll turn around and find 1 kill into Wasion. So the 1-on-1 goes your way. Still got a few players, though, from Colonel trying to break back in towards this point. Costly team kill there. Saint's going to be able to come out on top of it. And now Flom can read where Wasion is coming from because you have the information due to the shot. Unfortunate. Able to hit and connect on those last couple as he dropped down in towards the bottom of the boat. Wasion still up top, looking for rotations yet again. Here is the side of Redbird COD. This time, though, Cash, they flipped it in their favor. They got into the back spawns the first time here.
They did. Now they have the ability to get on this time and get that substantial map presence that Colonel Esports were able to do, but the flank is already on much faster, and back spawn's being secured by Colonel Esports. Can they capitalize on this quicker than Redbird were able to last time around, which really, if they can do it in the next 15 seconds, that's already going to be faster. We see the collapse and pinch coming in. They have tower control to go down in the kill feed, and that is going to be P3 control. Redbird COD aren't able to hold on with the given rotation.
And it's just so quick. They break in so quickly, and now you're forced to be on the outside looking in yet again. And this is where Redbird struggled. P3 has not been kind to them, nor has the play that they've tried to get into P3 with, though. Especially if they lose this rotation now, it's looking very grim for the outlook of the rest of this game. You still got play number 3 and Dreco across the map, so at least it's going to spawn the Redbirds close towards that left side of P3. But overall, with a 40-point lead right now, maybe able to break early in within the next 15 seconds, you could be looking at a win on P3, or P4, excuse me.
You could. You've crossed that 200-point mark now within 40 seconds of the win. And for Colonel Esports, we said they had to come out tonight, play good in the respawns, capitalize on Redbird COD mistakes. They've done just that here on Gava 2, where Redbird COD has given them map control, gunfights, anything like that. Colonel Esports have been on it and taken advantage. That's why they have the lead that they have. That's why they found so much success here. They've caught Redbird COD playing a little bit slower, making some more mental mistakes, and they're capitalizing. So here, like you said, they have the opportunity to close it out. They may not do it here given the hike across the map, but they have at least 2 hills that can close this out. And right now they've got to try to find a break and not let Redbird COD get back in this.
Marquise, this is X Cash. Shut Leo Bears down if you are the Colonel Esports roster. They've done just that. However, he's been starting to heat up just a bit here towards the tail end of the game. Redbirds have found a great amount of time here on P4 with 20 seconds left. Now the rotations will be back in towards P1, rather P5 across the map. So you're going to direct your attention to that mini-map real quick. You see those red arrows set up. This is the same setup that Colonel had the last time that they rotated to P5. It actually didn't net them anything because the player that was on the flak gun pushed through the middle of the map, got cut down. Now you look to P5 though. This time it's the Redbirds who have rotated out early, and it's going to work for them yet again.
It is. They now find themselves on this time early. Players trying to work their way in here towards P5, but it's Redbird COD with a very solid hole. Several arrows standing still for Colonel Esports. I'm going to anticipate that someone may be lagged, but we're going to see what the official ruling is. For now, it is Redbird COD in control of P5, and soaking up this time where they have swung this and taken the lead. Now 10 seconds left. We are going to get some kind of ruling here on whether we'll get a replay or not. But Redbird COD, whether it was due to whatever was going on, they came alive there towards the end and started swinging things around. That could have been in part to what was going on in game, but hey.
Well, not exactly sure what happened there. Obviously, a player is out of the game, and now multiple players are out of the game. So it could be very likely that we see a replay of that map very close all the way through. But there are a lot of takeaways that we can kind of talk about here in the intermittent time that we have before that series gets back up or we get a ruling on how map 1 is going to be ruled. So, Cash, specifically more than really anything else that I want to talk about is the lack of, I guess, team confidence in the beginning of the game from the Redbirds, because there was certain points where I was looking at them and it just didn't look like the Redbirds roster that I knew, if that makes sense, because there was a lot of solo pushes, and there were some really good solo plays that were made to try and get some positioning on the map. But when those solo plays were made, there weren't teammates to be able to capitalize on the positions that those plays then gave the Redbirds, and then that just allowed Colonel to get more hill time. Specifically, when we looked at that P3 rotation, you know, there was a time where a couple Redbirds players got 2 down, got those spawns, but then they couldn't win the one-on-one gunfights as a team and send multiple people over toward the flak gun or whatnot to then try to break past that map, and that allowed Colonel to then set up for P4.
I couldn't have said better than what you just said. I completely agree. Colonel Esports, they were playing as a team to start. And again, whenever you have people doing solo pushes or someone secure spawn, like you had mentioned for Redbird COD, and your teammates aren't there to capitalize and fill in that space on the map, makes it much harder. So for Colonel Esports, they came out, they played as a team, and they came out with their guns hot. Again, no one got streaks by any means, but everyone was playing pretty well. And then, of course, for Redbird COD, they did look to respond. But what Colonel Esports was doing so well, of course, this kind of piggybacks on playing as a team, but they were making adjustments around the map whenever players fell. We saw it whenever we saw P2, someone fell, or It's P3. Someone fell at ring. The player who was on ring steps rotated up to where that person was and where they had fallen. So they were doing a great job. You can tell you have to have great communication for that to work as well as it does. But players were rotating and filling gaps on the map as to not let Redbird COD through. That's why they found so little success on their break attempts. It seems like Colonel Esports knew every lane they needed locked on the map, as we had mentioned going into it. So Colonel Esports, they came out sharp. And again, given what they were moving around the map like, you know, the comms also have to be pretty good.
Absolutely. Well, as we kind of go back over and get the ruling from the official people in the CCL, we're going to kick things to a quick break. We'll talk a little bit more about this series, what we like, what we dislike, and everything else after a short break. My name is McCormiel. With me is Cash. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back. I know we had a bit of a kerfuffle before we went to break, but Colonel Esports, Redbird COD, the hard point that you just watched, all of it, just throw it out the window. It doesn't mean anything anymore. It doesn't matter. We're doing a full map replay of the hard point, so we're still at 0-0 in this series. No search and destroy in sight just yet, so we will be taking back on to Gavutu. Cash, we talked a bit about break, of what we liked, what we didn't like for these teams. Now we can kind of just reset everything from scratch, take it with a new slate, and see if the teams can, you know, maybe in the 5 or so minutes that we had after map one's, quote-unquote, map one's conclusion to where we are now, and maybe fix some things going into this hard point. So hopefully for the Redbird's sake, that's a yes. If you're Colonel, maybe you can extend that lead even further.
Yeah, exactly. I think we got a nice little preview of what each team's looking to bring. But like you said, with this downtime, you can kind of hash some things out. Like, hey, we really were faltering on our brakes. We were taking too long to collapse on a hill if you're Redbird COD. And for Colonel Esports, like you said, driving that lead up, how can we hold them off even longer? You know, for Redbird or for Colonel Esports, they didn't do all that much wrong in that hard point. Sure, the scoreline got close at times, and they can tighten up a couple things, but, I mean, they were holding majority of hills before they even got broken, which gifted them spawns for the other side of the map by the time Redbird COD was able to capitalize on the spawn position. So, I mean, there's a couple of things needing to be tightened up if you are Colonel Esports to really blow that scoreline out of the water. And for Redbird COD, you've got to find a way to collapse on the hill quicker. They were taking a bit too long, whether it be on rotation or just getting spawns and collapsing on the site. So that's the improvement they need to see. But if you're Colonel Esports, just build on what you're doing well, which was winning those gunfights and playing as a team.
These are very important in a series all the time. Colonel Esports, it was looking like a forecasted map 1 win, and then everything was ripped from them, called an MCU movie. Gavutu, hard point. Start back up. Colonel Esports going to be spawning on the favorable side here. Redbird's going to try and push from the op side. I mean, nades and stuns over the top to try and break on in towards the point. First stun's going to be out. Congestion is in. First gunfight going to go to the hands of Boost. Everybody else just fighting around the point right now. The contest is going to stay there for a bit more time, but finally, it's going to be 3 players in from Redbirds and 20 seconds off the clock.
Hunter gets a nade kill off the rip, instantly gets the top tower of bow, or top gunship of bow, and already on a 3 streak to kick things off. So though you aren't getting much time for P1, the position this could play going into P2 would be vital. Spawns do flip, and Hunter is taken off of his power position, but to kick things off, that does give you spawns for P3 as we look forward. Really the same go-around that we got on P1 initially. It was Redbird COD that got most of the time. Sure, Colonel Esports were able to get in and get some scrap time, and they're going to give it one last attempt here, but on the P2 rotation, there is a 1v2 on the site for it, and Colonel Esports look to be ready for it as they do get the rest of the scrap time for P1.
And then they go to map 1 with the rotations. However, the score line is just a bit different. Redbird's now with a 30-10 lead. P2 trying to extend this for Colonel Esports. On the left-hand side, Hunter's going to miss all those shots. You got to hit those at a certain point. Up the ladder, though, is going to go right into the hands of Hunter. Back over towards that hard point, though, it is going to be Saint. Pinstripe kill feed takes 20 seconds off the clock. It allows the side of Redbirds to get in towards this point in bottom P2. You look back over towards that spawn side. The Redbirds now getting, or rather, trying to set up a trap on the spawn side at Colonel. However, some unfortunate timing there in play number 6 from Leo Bears. Should get cut down from behind just in a minute.
Leo Bears look to wrap back to the point, but yeah, Leo Bears ends up chopping down a couple more players on spawn. So instead of going for P2 time, now if you're Colonel Esports, you have to find this player in your spawn because that can spell disaster for P3. They end up finding Leo Bears, but now someone else is already on rotation for Redbird COD. Now the lead is also 40-50 points going the way of Redbird COD as they make this rotation to P3. Colonel Esports have to find a way in from the front or try to break through and get spawns for the back, so they do have early control, but this is where Redbird COD can show improvement from the last go-around. Can they collapse on this site quicker? We saw them have this positioning last go-around. Can they collapse and get on this? Gonna be player 6 and Leo Bears on a huge flank for Ring.
They had this position last time, though, with only 30 seconds left, so if they can break in from the spawn, it'll be huge. That's 2 quick kills. The ARs going over the top now for the Redbirds. Finally, the third one will fall. You look back over towards the flat gun, and C-Mac is going to be there. Takes one down in the way of a pistol. However, this is big because Redbirds now are going to get the close spawns. They're going to be in the hill, and they're winning gunfights over the top as well. So now 2 players on streaks for Redbird. You have player number 5 making a sneaky route all the way through the backside spawn. This could be big. If the side of Colonel Esports push up too far, those squad spawns are going to come into effect and give the side of Redbirds the spawns a P4.
Great plays from Saint to give spawns for P4. As you had said, coming back into this one, it was solo plays and solo flanks that teammates weren't there to help pay off. Now they're here, they get the rotation, they could very well chain this, though they lost the last bit of scrap time for P3. They got majority of it, so this could be a potential chain here for Redbird COD to really blow this lead well over the 100-point mark. You've got to find a way to get in if you're Colonel Esports. Wasian kicks things off with a great pick at range. Now they're trying to work from the top side of the map and drive these players back into the hill. Hunter finds another, so a 2v2 on the site here. If they can win the gunfights, they can go for it. The spawns flip out now. Colonel Esports are pinned in the back. Redbird COD can pin them here. This could really get dangerous.
I don't know if it's something in the water or something that's blown into the air, but the momentum in this game has seemed to change just a bit. The Redbirds have gotten hot. They've started to fry around the map. With 25 seconds left here on this point, they can get all this tasty scrap time, get back over towards P5, because guess who's on another route? It's Saint yet again. He has done it for P4, now into P5. They're going to be close. They're going to spawn there. And now all it is back at the old hill for the scrap time is a one-on-one. Fortunately enough for the side of Colonel, you'll win that. But now you're on the outside looking in. They're going to be close spawning over by P5.
Colonel Esports have yet to make a break in the last few hills. Really, like you said, for Redbird COD, it's just a change in tide where they are in takeover mode on this map. All players playing well for the side of Redbird COD. Colonel Esports slow starts from players like Dreco, who haven't found any footing on the map and was having a decent map last go around. They have yet to find any kind of footing to get in. It's been all Redbird COD in the driver's seat this time. Now at about a 100-point lead, and Colonel Esports don't look even close to getting into this. So for Colonel Esports to try to turn this around, it starts with just winning some gunfights and getting yourself close enough to the hill. It seems like Redbird COD is moving effortlessly and with ease, reading around the map.
This is crazy. A complete 180 turnaround from Redbirds from, like, I guess, like, map, like, half, like, 0.5 before we really get into the actual technical real hard point. You can say whichever one is real, but right now the Redbirds have absolutely stormed the side of Colonel Esports in the rerun of map number 1. Kafutu has been theirs. Colonel, we'll go back to this the first time we'll get back to P1. Our second set of rotations are here. But Cash, I just don't see the side of Colonel Esports making this comeback right now.
I don't either. It's really been Redbird COD keeping Colonel at range. They can't get close enough to the hill to even contest it. I don't know, you know, that they were able to get a full 60 the last time, but now they finally get in for a bit of contention. Still someone here trying to shake things up and get some players gunned down. Boost does just that, finding 2, and by that time reinforcements are in to get back on the hill. So I can't believe that Redbird COD is looking at 200 points given how the first go around went. Like you said, really wiped that slate clean. I don't know what they said in their pregame chat, but they figured it out. Now dominantly handling Colonel Esports. They haven't been close enough to the hill to get any kind of time. Really, since P1 and P2, that was the most time Colonel Esports has gotten. It has been all Redbird COD from them.
You know, Cash, the one thing that I had said at the very beginning of the last game is that everybody on Colonel was doing their job and being able to at least bring something to the potluck. That has not happened at all here for Colonel in this rerun. Redbirds have done everything within their power to be able to take over this game. If I would have told you that this was map number 1, you would probably believe me if you didn't see what happened that last game and just take Redbirds as that number 22 team just being better than Colonel Esports. This is a complete upset of what we had saw. I'm just as shocked as most people are.
I don't know that this is a collapse from Colonel Esports or Redbird COD waking up and saying, "Oh, that was a little too slow of a start for us. We don't want to replicate what we did that first go around." They have not done that. Have the potential here to 100-point club Colonel Esports off the rip, and it sounds like such a simple thing, but it's the slang. When you can't win gunfights to get close enough to the hill, what are you supposed to do? It doesn't matter how well you're moving around the map. If you can't find a pick to get your team access onto the hill, it doesn't really matter what else goes on. So I know slang is such a broad stroke to say, but that's really been the case for me. I mean, look at the scoreboard. You can see it there. It is just one-sided, and it's been Redbird COD ever since P2.
Gone out over the top. 15 seconds for the Redbirds to be able to take map number 1 in a 1-0 lead in the series. From the top of the flak gun in P1, you have a few players of Colonel Esports making their way up the map. Boost slowly peeking around the corner. Dreco, the last one there. Leo Bears will be able to connect from behind With 40 seconds left on this point, the close spawn still there, and really nobody from Colonel Esports able to make their way across the map just yet. It looks like it could be all over from here on out. Break on back in. Boost in the first cut, gonna toss a nade out onto the point. If anybody tries to run around the corner, they could get cut down in an untimely fashion. Back down over towards the boat. The player will be left at one shot. A nade or a stun over the top. Surely can go ahead and find that last kill. And as everybody from Redbirds now starts to contest back onto the point, Hunter in a one-on-one with the pistol there onto Leo Bears. Just have to sprint back over towards the point. 3 seconds is all the side of Redbirds are gonna need, whether that be here or on the rotation. They get back onto the point. Nobody there from Colonel Esports. Map 1, a 100-point club, and the run back on Gavutu gives Redbirds a 1-0 lead.
As you said, a completely different look. Redbird COD below this one out of the water. All players firing on all cylinders. No individual plays there. Of course, there were individual moments where players, popped a few pieces, but it was much more coordinated effort from them, and it showed. They were playing like the number 22 team in the CCL. It was far more coordinated, and they were playing like a team that just came off of beating Akron. They are still on fire, playing with pacing, taking that to Colonel Esports. Again, you really have to wipe that first play from your mind, because this is what we expect. The first go around, we thought could have been possible, right? Had that one finished out, would have been possible to be like, oh, I see Redbird COD kind of slipping in that. This go around is what you would hope would have happened. They do exactly what they're expected to do. So I want to give them props for giving such a great showing, but this is what we expect them to do, especially going into the postseason. You need to be performing at this consistent high level.
Yeah, well, and that also goes from starting out a series as well, because if you are the side of Illinois State University, the one thing that you cannot afford to do is have a dramatically slow start in the first hard point like you did before we had that second replay. So, Cash, in your mind, again, this isn't necessarily a match that's going to be for playoff qualification or anything else. It's more just for seeding, because these teams are basically already locks to get into playoffs at a tier 1 in the Midwest region. But more than anything else, at least going forward, what do Colonel Esports need to work on in hardpoint that you saw out of them there?
They need to work on the things they did well the first go around. I know we keep calling back to it, but they played well as a team. They were able to make those adjustments around the map whenever Redbird COD was making a mistake. They were filling that gap perfectly. It's so hard to say what they need to improve on. Again, I know slaying is such a broad stroke, but they just weren't winning gunfights, plain and simply. I mean, you can look at the kill deaths there. They weren't winning gunfights around the map. That makes it harder to fill gaps where Redbird COD makes it. Redbird COD played nearly perfect Call of Duty in that hard point. So it's hard to say you can improve on this, because Redbird COD did such little wrong. There wasn't really room for Colonel Esports to make a response. That's what they were doing well the first go round. Whenever Redbird COD took a big hill, they were able to win the rotation and secure good bits of time and hold it from the front, even just in unfavorable situations. They were kept pinned down and pinned back at those long-range gunfights for the entirety of that hard point. So I guess for them, again, really just finding a way to adjust. I guess, okay, to get back to your question, now that I've done my little Colonel Esports rant, to get back to your question, now that I've reeled myself in, for that one and for them to improve in hardpoint, you've got to find a way to dig yourself out of that situation, regardless of what's going on. You've got to find a way to take a breath, hit the reset, and say, all right, it starts with these gunfights. Even if you have to push one lane just to get yourself some kind of map presence, I guess that's what it starts with, not letting something like that go on for the entirety of a respawn.
Very well said by Cash. Gives it to you straight. Redbird Call of Duty have a 1-0 lead inside of this best-of-5 series. Gavutu hardpoint the second time around was not close whatsoever. 250-97, a 100-point club starts this best-of-5 off. We'll now go to our Desert Siege Search and Destroy, where famously the ARs are going to be oppressive, such as Gavutu, as we highlighted at the beginning of this series. Cash, the one thing that was kind of a keys to success and keys to victory for us going into the series was, if you're Colonel Esports, you want to be able to take at least 1 or 2 respawns off of the side of Redbird COD, because of how good they can be and are in Search and Destroy. We saw that on full display in the series against the Akron Zips last week. They're just going to look to do that yet again here inside of this best-of-5 series. Try to take a 2-0 lead going into the break, and then, of course, into the control. Overall, the complexion of the series, and at least my overall feeling, was very, very, very heavily influenced by that rerun of map 1 there. I have a completely different set of lenses on for this series now. I think the Redbirds are in full control and very much in the driver's seat to win this series.
I do agree with you in part there. I think looking on paper at the head-to-head, that technically was the mode Redbird COD should have taken from the jump, right? So just to, have some hope for Colonel Esports, and of course there's still a lot of COD left, when you look at the S&D, they found just as much success. Both squads have 13 wins. And then you look at the control, and Colonel Esports actually have 1 more win than Redbird COD. So the series evens up at this point. If Colonel Esports can respond early on in this S&D and get a win, this could spell huge for them for the rest of the series.
Beautiful snipe from Hunter onto Leo Bears. Dreco goes ahead and finds the second, now the third in the round for CMAC. Everybody down. Almost a flawless round out of Colonel Esports there. Very quickly, though, on Desert Siege. They'll get on the board first. Get a little momentum in their favor.
Just a good bounce back first round to take. It was quick. It was great tack placement as well. Hunter kicks things off the snipe, closes things with a grenade. So already just a good response and just, hey, got to keep our head down, keep it pushing, go for the S&D win. That's what Colonel Esports are looking to do. Hunter on 2. Can they build on this momentum? And again, you know, Redbird's going to find a way to respond. Can you answer with something if they start to look to mount any kind of lead?
Sniper out for Hunter again, looking to make it the third kill inside of the search and destroy here. The second blood. I could come with that sniper out and towards the open sights of B. There is a player out there in Leo Bears, slowly playing, but when that bomb goes down, 45 seconds is now the restriction and timer that Redbird COD now have to get back on that B site.
Leo Bears able to get a snipe there on the bottom lane of the map, but it's Dreco on the flank. Able to sniff him out and get that kill. Now you have boost. Knowing Dreco's out here, Dreco doing a little dance, just trying to kill time. They've got to find these kills before they can defuse. Sane is going to hop it, but going to be CMAC there ready and looking for it. Now, there's just 18 seconds left. They've got to find CMAC and get the kill. If they can't, they're not going to get this bomb, but it's going to be Saint hopping it. Beautiful cover by Boost, just to give pressure and back down player in CMAC.
He hopped up to the top there. Would have been a crazy one-on-one that you have to win out and towards that sand side, but perhaps you slide close, maybe win with the automaton on the player that's going for the defuse. Either way, Redbird COD play that nicely. It was a 2 versus 3 retake that they had to get back on the site. They make it work out spectacularly, only losing 2 lives full in the round. Now we're tied up 1-1 here on Desert Siege. So we saw a snipe from Hunter in the first round. Now we see a snipe from Leo Bears here in round 2. It's going to be a fight to watch all the way down to the end of this Desert Siege search and destroy. Could very well decide who wins the map.
Yeah, snipers are going to be the ones to take control of the outer lanes of the map, specifically that B S&D site. Leo Bear just waiting for it. Oh man, this is going to be such a fun battle to watch. But in the mid-map, Dreco gets a little crazy, takes him down. Hunter does find the snipe on boost, so Leo Bear is now left in a, hey, I was just looking for their sniper, now I have to look for their entire squad. They respond in a big way, take that one in flawless fashion.
It's such a difficult gunfight to win there, all the way in the back, obviously with the sniper, but more importantly, once everybody else goes down, you're just kind of trapped in a corner, like a mouse in a snake's cage. They're just going to pounce on you eventually. It's just a matter of time before everybody collapses on in. That also comes off of a beautiful 2-piece to open up the round there from Dreco, though. You can't underestimate that. Also, you can't get piece like that. Somebody's got to watch that left side. I get everybody wants to make that bomb work over towards B, and it was a great play to get through the middle of the map, but still, you got to watch for that, especially the flanks coming back around. First blood here around the corner. Should go to the hands of Dreco and Will for the second time in 2 rounds. 2-1 lead now, 3 versus 3, 15 seconds off the clock.
Flav able to respond in the mid-map, but it's CMAC watching the back spawn and keeping it locked down. Now another 2v3 situation. The Redbirds, they won it last go around, and now in a 2v1, they stand a chance to do it again. Hunter left out in the dunes with a sniper rifle, misses the first shot, reveals his position. The collapse comes in, and wonderful resilience from the Redbirds to win in another 2v3 situation. Great job from them being down and still finding a way to get the job done.
Especially when you have a couple players with SMGs who are then pushing outer towards that B site, trying to get and pick off that sniper player. It's definitely going to be nice when that first shot misses, and then he's just going to have to readjust. He's not going to be able to get that ADS back down. No. He's not going to be able to re-challenge you in any sort of way. And unless he pulls off a miracle to where he gets just like the craziest quickscope, maybe switches to the rat and then picks that last player off, you're not going to win that. That was really good teamwork there from Redbird COD. To go ahead and find that last player alive. Flav and Boost push in, they get the kill, they get the round, and that's twice by over at the B bomb, where they've been able to defuse that and win in 2v3s.
First to 6, we're 2-2 here in map number 2. And really I want to touch on Dreco. Again, though that it's 2-2, still a neutral game here in the S&D. Dreco had the worst performance for Colonel Esports coming out of that hard point. To see how well and how quickly he's been able to turn around here in the search and destroy just is a testament of this Colonel Esports team and how willing they are and how resilient they are to turn things around. But Saint slips right by. C-Mac gets the bomb down here and can't get the kill. To get out with your life is huge, but Hunter finds 2.
I would have to go for a 1 versus 4. Entire ace in the round. You got to turn around. There's 3. They're all coming from behind you. Yeah, no, that's an impossible situation yet again. So basically, we're going back and forth. Every round thus far has been traded out by the other team. Colonel Esports with a 1 round advantage, sure, but that also comes off of not being able to check that left side. That would have been a much different round had you got the player that was trying to watch for the long angle and the long pushover towards the site cut down earlier on. That wouldn't allow the rest of the team to make their way up the map. You were just so worried about the site being taken over or having long angles against you that you didn't even care about looking at the map. That's twice that's happened. You got to let it stop.
That's the adjustment you have to look at and instantly correct, like you said, if you want to really take the search and destroy. A key to success that you had mentioned for Redbird COD is to win your search and destroys like you did versus Zips. The Akron Zips team is such a good squad. To take an S&D, take 2 of them is just wonderful. They've got to find a way to make those adjustments mid-round and keep a lead, but down 2-3. First Bloods go even. 3v3, Colonel Esports looking to try to get site clearance here on B.
And around the corner, doesn't get anything just yet. Leo Bears on the hop up. Oh, Asian could have got some great timing there, but won't be able to spot that player down from above. There comes Flob, jumping straight over the top. C-Mac's going to be the next victim in Flob's path, and now he also escapes with his life, and it's Hunter in a 1 versus 3 if the flinch didn't come through there. That was an easy snipe directly to the chest or the head of the player looking at the long angle. But Cash, that's another round that gets traded back and forth. We've handshook 3 straight rounds for both teams.
They've been defensive as well. Even, you look at Colonel Esports, even whenever they can get the first blood and get the bomb down, it's been back-to-back times where, well, I guess not back-to-back at this point, but it was back-to-back rounds where Redbird COD was able to win in a 2v3 situation. So, Colonel Esports, you set yourself up well enough on offense to get the win. You've got to close it out. And for Redbird COD, the same thing on offense. There are rounds that they've lost. It's just been a 4-man wipe. It seems like on this defensive side, Colonel Esports get through and hit a flank to pop a few pieces. And, well, Dreco sitting there on the B-bomb side is definitely going to make things harder for you to get that down.
One of those gunfights that's going to be really, really weird. Getting up close, maybe losing a bit of aim assist in the process. 1 versus 3 now. Offense has been so difficult for both of these teams thus far.
Well, for Colonel Esports, you get 2v3 to lose the round on offense, and then for Redbird COD, you only can kill one person. It's just like you said, it's been hard in their own ways. Colonel Esports are making it harder on themselves than it needs to be by not closing out the round with life advantage. And then for Redbird COD, they can't even get out of their spawn hardly without someone popping a 2-piece or hitting a flank to take out a couple of players. So yeah, definitely challenging offenses here. And good defense, I guess.
I mean, yeah.
Guess that's the flip side of that.
Looking across the board, Dreco leading the way inside of the search and destroy. 8-5, 6-3 on the team. Second closest in Hunter has done work with a sniper and very influential on the map. We've highlighted multiple times. Always going to spot the foot, going to spot the head, and everything except the body for the kill that could have came through there. So at least for now, the sniper gets the information, just not the kill. This time, though, it's going to be an aggressive flank on the offensive side for Dreco that should be able to cut down one. Not going to realize that boost is in the corner there. Will finally slip on out. It's going to spot the second one on the flop. Shots are there, but it's going to be enough to pepper them up. 3 versus 3. You just hope that Colonel Esports doesn't yet once again lose a 2v3.
You don't hope so, but Dreco is the one who opens that entire round up. I mean, you look at the arrows on the mini-map, and the moment Dreco was able to get the kill on boost in the back, the Redbird COD arrows just were like ants just running around. You panic because now you have to watch 2 angles and the collapse comes in. So it's great from the side of Colonel Esports just to frazzle these players, and Dreco getting through mid-map and into your spawn for free also can't happen, but great job just to recognize and hit that route while it's open.
First time a team has had a 2-lead advantage in the S&D thus far. Colonel Esports now at match point. Had the series up at 1 apiece very easily. This does not look like the same Redbird COD roster that we saw against the Akron Zips in the S&D last week. Saint at 1-7, Leo Bears at 2-7. Not standout performances from these players at all. Both the other teammates have more kills than each of those players combined. Finally, though, Saint will go ahead for the second kill in the round. C-Mac with a double, though, takes everything off the board, negates that first blood that the Redbird COD roster had gotten. And now it's a 2 versus 3 yet again that the Redbirds are going to have to clutch. You got to think at least at a certain point you don't clutch these and you just lose the maps because of it. It happened the last round too.
Definitely. And as you had mentioned, Saint and Leo Bears, two players that played really well in the respawn, having slow S&D. And for Colonel Esports, two players that had a slow hard point, now picking things up in the search and destroy in Hunter and Dreco. Great bounce back performance from Colonel Esports, but they still have work to do in a 2v2 situation. Bomb now down on the A site. They're going to try to work together here and end up breaking off.
The timing.
Try and get this kill, but C-Mac could have the best timing.
Sitting in the corner inside. Oh, C-Mac's going to sprint past Leo Bears. He's going to be able to pick up the kill, and Saint finds it as well. The third 2v3 that Illinois State has gotten in the S&D thus far, Cash. When will it stop?
I don't know, man. I don't. It's just a collapse. I mean, it's 3v2. I mean, also one of the first offensive round wins, but yeah, it's just costing you. If Colonel Esports loses search and destroy, it's because they had not only bombed down in some situations there. Of course, it was a defensive round, but first and foremost, you have life advantage, and you lose it. It's that simple. Again, slaying is such a broad stroke, but you have the advantage. Finish the round, play your trades. I know that's easier said than done, of course, but I mean, whew.
Oh boy.
Giving Redbird caught some life. Boost finds 2.
3v2. How poetic would it be if Colonel Esports could put Redbird COD out of commission here in the search and destroy with a 2v3 of their own? C-Mac around the corner. Oh, almost wins the one-on-one there. Hunter now with the sniper and pistol combination around that left side. Wins the one-on-one with the pistol. Picks up the automaton. Bomb has not gone down yet. Boost wins it though. That's 3 in the round for Boost. We're going to a round 11 where the Redbird COD roster is trying to complete the comeback.
Mentioned this at the top of the show. That clutch factor, or Redbird COD, they're gonna have it. And for Colonel Esports, you gotta put them down where you have the chance. You still have a chance. Of course, it's around 11, so no more room for error. But this is the Redbird COD that's won game 5s, won round 11s. They've been here. They're experienced. They know what they need to do. Colonel Esports, your last chance to close them out here in the search and destroy and draw the series up 1-1, because if Redbird COD go up 2-0 going into control, it's going to be far more dire situation than if you can draw it 1-1. I'll say that, and I'll say the obvious.
Instantaneous trade onto Wasion there. Unfortunately, you lose Flob, who is having one of the better games on the side of Redbirds. Saint, Boost. Try and work their way around the map. Bomb still has yet to go down. Those white arrows cooped up inside of that middle building. Whether you try to get out to B or A is your choice to make. But the snipe from Hunter is going to make things so much more difficult. But Cash, it's a 2 versus 3.
Poetic justice. Do we get it? No! They did it! When it mattered most, they closed out a 2v3. Congratulations, Colonel Esports. You wondered when they were going to just clutch it up. Hey, they did it when it matters most. In around 11, they draw the series up 1-1.
Broken curses that fall all the way down to the final round of the S&D. Redbird's COD made it close, just like they did the first time we had Gavutu. But this time it's going to be Colonels who close out the series, rather the map. I was going to say the series for a second, but yeah, no, that's a long way from over. We're at least guaranteed a map number 4. If you're wondering what map Control is going to be on, that's going to be the Gavutu yet again. Then we'll switch things up and go to Tuscan for map 4 at least. So, will that Berlin Game 5 be in sight for us? Will it be more of the same here in terms of respawn, where the Redbird COD side dominates the side of Colonel Esports? We'll just have to find out, but we will take a look at the statistics here from the search and destroy, and there's definitely a clear eyesore when you look at Colonel Esports' statistics and then compare them to Illinois State. 12-7 from Dreco, 10-5 from Hunter. I said whoever wins the sniper battle, it's going to be pretty much who decides the map, and it was Hunter for Colonel Esports that won that map.
Hunter won the sniper battle for Colonel, as you mentioned, and then again, it's just for me the hot respawn players, and Saint and Leo Bears had really slow search and destroys. Players who were slow on the side of Colonel Esports, Dreco, and Hunter really picked things up there in the S&D. So a little flip flop, and they're able to, again, just find success in capitalizing on Redbird mistakes. Like you said, it was closer than it needed to be, maybe for Colonel Esports, but for Redbird COD, you walk out with a loss, the series drawn up at 1-1, you get back to those respawns where you look to try to close this out in the next 2 maps. But for Colonel Esports, for the beating that they took in the respawn, a great bounce back from them.
Flip-flops back and forth. At the end of maps 1 and 2, hopefully if you've been doing predictions, well, hopefully they went in your way. It's been very difficult to predict this series from either a viewership point of view or a caster point of view. Hell, even a player point of view probably don't know how this series is going to be panning out. Either way, we're going to have to see on the flip side of a break which team will come out on top of the control in the hard point. Stay with us. We'll be back after a short break.
Right now with T-Bam, this is a Maverick.
Well, in a series that we are guaranteed to see 4 maps, we go back to Gavoot 2 yet again for control. I'm Corn, with me is Cash. And of course, as we saw in map number 1, it was Redbird COD who had the upper hand advantage in the hard point on Gavoot 2, and well, that was severely shown as it was a 250-97 win in map 1. Of course, the S&D went a different way, though, as it was a 6-5 win for Colonel Esports. So that is where we have left ourselves in a 1-1 tied series between these two teams. And now, Cash, the question falls onto you. What adjustments do Colonel Esports need to make in Respawn?
And Respawn's winning gunfights, I know I keep harping on it. I know people think my credibility might be on the floor. Really, it is that. Because that gave them the first go-round, as we saw, or if you did catch the first go-round on Gavoot 2 before we had the restart, that gave them map presence. That allows you the freedom and the mobility to fill gaps where they need. It makes the game that much easier when you're winning gunfights. Again, I know that's such a simpleton statement, but really, for Colonel Esports, getting back in a groove of winning your ones where you need to around the map and giving yourself an easier chance to move around. Because if you let Redbird COD pin you in your spawn on your offensive rounds, you're just not going to be able to get out of it. But the adjustment they need to make, again, I feel like the same thing. Now that I've made that rant, I guess, don't let it get to that situation. If it does, you've got to find a way to get out. Like I said, even if it feels like the same thing as I said for the hard point, you've got to find a way, even if it's for hitting one lane and bullying out one player, do it. Whatever you have to do to give yourself the advantage, find a way to get it done. For me, that's them tunneling their way through and getting map presence and pressure here. Especially on offense, don't let the scoreline get drastic.
Opening breaks are so important when it comes to control. 3 kills go immediately to the side of Illinois State. Now for the side of Colonel Esports, what can you do as you're trying to break back over towards this A point? Dreco gets one on the Leo Bears, but Saint will trade it out on Evasion immediately. Another player that was pushed up into the furthest point of the spawn side for Redbird COD gets cut down and now has to force back to the respawn block. So top of the ship being held down right now. Fortunately enough, though, 2 quick kills come through, and now you can use your ARs to start cutting these lanes off and get control of this A site. That first tick of progress is going to be yours to cherish.
Claps coming in from the side of the Redbirds, but it's going to be Colonel Esports holding on for the time being. A pinch play coming in, ladder being climbed by Flob to get top boat control. No gunfights won just yet. So a tick and a half of progression in for Colonel Esports. You'd like to be able to close this second one before you get wiped off the hill, but they don't really care. C-Max flying around, punching people off the site, trying to get it done for the team. You need reinforcements to come in, but I like how Dreco is pushed beyond this A site, trying to cut these players off spawn, giving his teammates more time to get to the site. That second tick comes in, so great work from them, great adjustment there on the respawn to recognize where they need to be on the map to make this A site that much easier to capture.
Oh, they just get onto it. Oh, I thought maybe Saint dropped onto the point with just enough time left to go ahead and get that bit of contest before the full capture of that A zone progressed. However, now Colonel Esports, they've pushed themselves over towards that B side. Yet it's only one player in player number 4. C-Mac can now play the life in the back spawn, and this is just trying to dwindle down a few players who are now going to be making their way back over towards the point, because the reinforcements aren't there yet. You're just playing by yourself on an island. Fortunately enough, though, you win the one-on-one gunfight if you are Evasion. You can start pushing your way back over towards that B site now. But for Colonel Esports, once again, it's just such a difficult task to get up the beach, and then, of course, progressing to capture that point as well.
They are hitting this from one lane through beach, and C-Mac watching the flank, knowing this is what these players like to do. Saint is going to find 1, 2, 3 strikes. You're out. Back to the respawn screen for Colonel Esports. Was watching the flank a bit too deep if you're C-Mac. Saint is able to find a gap, shoot it, and capitalize now on a 5 streak. Leo Bear's getting warmed up too. It's back to square one, and the collapse is coming in from Redbird COD. Lead in life now, growing very drastically. You got the A site. You'd like to get at least a pick on B if you're Colonel Esports, but given the time and the lives, you may not get the chance.
Leo Bear's trying to do his best impression of his teammate Saint. Gets behind for only 2. Every single player on Redbirds have found themselves streaks now. 5 for Saint, 4 for Leo Bears, and then 2 apiece for the rest of the 2, tacking on down at the bottom. 3 lives left here for Colonel Esports. You're just trying to go ahead and cut maybe one of the players off of Colonel Esports, or rather Redbird COD, to try and cut them off of some streaks. C-Mac is playing at the top of the building. Saint will cut that down. I believe that was 6 in a row. Could have even been number 7. You at least have one of the streaks to work with, although you really can't use it. You're still going to be able to at least call in that glide bomb with one more kill towards your name. So, An offensive round there that was lackluster to say the very least for the side of Colonel Esports. And now Leo Bears is on 6 in a row looking for that final nail in the coffin to get utility in the back pocket on an offensive round.
Beyond Leo Bear being on 6, it was Saint opening that up with the perfect flank through a ring. C-Mac watching that a bit too far back in the spawn. Leo Bear now fully streaked out, but it was Saint that opened up that defensive collapse for Redbird COD and allowed them to shut out that round in the dominance that they did. Now it's up to Colonel Esports to respond. They get the clearance on A, but little do they know 3 players are going to be stacked up on this B site, so if they can't recognize it quick enough, this could be some quick progression, and if they can get even 1 ticket B and what you would presume all of A, well, this would already put them in the advantage for a potential round 5.
Streak's going to get called in at the same time as well, so over the top you're going to be able to find one. Leo Bears on the C-Mac. Traded off the board. 2 ticks of progress over towards this B zone. You're looking for the last one here. Everybody now making their way up. The one thing that the Redbirds did so good on this point is they made sure nobody could flank them from P1 on the flag side. You had the last player now pushing onto the point. The contention's going to be there. It's a 1-and-2 gunfight. They have to win if you're C-Mac, and you very well do. Flob gets cut down on P1, so what could have spelled disaster and ended this offensive round for Redbird COD potentially all gets cut to the wayside for now. At least leaves them with still a tick of progress that they have to gain over MP.
They still stand a chance to win this defensive round. Only needing 1 tick if you are Redbird COD, you've got to feel like you have an advantage there. But we have seen teams before even get the B site first and collapse and just be unable to get A. Now we see Colonel Esports doing a good job getting around the map. I like the positioning C-Mac's taking, cutting these players off of spawn. He's able to find 1, looking for 2. But they have site clearance. Do they know Saint is here? Trying to make things a little bit scarier for Colonel Esports working their way over to the A site.
Saint picks off the head evasion, or what at least should have been a headshot. Take that player off the map. Still 15-14. 1 life up now for the side of Colonel Esports, but as quickly as I say that, it's 2 good kills that go to the side of the Redbird roster. Hunter in the middle of the map, trying to go ahead. Break back on towards A, but it's 2 ticks of progress now. You're looking for that extra tick. You just need 1 on either of the sites, but you still have 40 seconds of time to work with here. If you're able to capture A and or B, you still are going to have like 1 minute 40 seconds to work with overall getting towards the next site, and you've already dwindled the lives of the defensive side down to 10.
Redbird COD with potentially a lot to work with if they can capture this A site. They are going to, almost in the same fashion as last round. Dureko just unable to slide in and contest that at the last moment, and Boost is already on B, so you have to turn and burn all the way over to the other side of the map to clear that player off before he just has to capture that 1 tick of progression. Now you hit the reset, try to figure out where these players are pushing through. C-Mac unable to take the gunfight to start over at ringside, does finally pick it. That is huge for the team. Got to find a way to hold on here for a minute 19, and really lives are going to come into play more than anything.
You have to cut down C-Mac if you're Redbird COD, and that's exactly what you do. Leo Bears will play slow over towards P1. That was going to be a 6-5 advantage in the live count for Redbird COD. Illinois State making their way up the map. Over on the top side, though, traded instantaneously as Wasian and C-Mac, as they're going to go ahead all red in the kill feed for now. 5-4, now the Colonel Esports roster on top. With 50 seconds left, all you have to do is start making your way up the beach. No respawns here for Redbirds. And as C-Mac gets the nade kill all the way onto Saint, this is looking like a much harder round now with no reinforcements to be able to find your way across the map. However, as I say that though, no more reinforcements now for Colonel Esports. Leo Bear still trying to work your way from P1. 35 seconds is tons of time to work over towards the site. And now Flop makes it 3-3 overall. 30 seconds. You got to start making your way up the map. There's so many different angles that are being watched right now. And C-Mac is going to be able to have his sights on 1, but Boost comes around the corner and shuts that down. 3v2, 1v3. Hunter, the last one alive, was so good in the SND, is able to find Leo Bears, puts out the cut, 1 finds the second, can't find the third. Redbird COD will find their second round in an offense that should not have gone their way.
Shouldn't have. Plain and simply, you're up 5-3. Really the pick that Boost got. Again, it's been a singular play that changes the tide of the round. Colonel Esports had the advantage there on defense, of course being 5-3, but Boost finding the kill over at Green Cut. Really, that spelled the collapse. Now you know no one's left there. The last person's left on the site defending it. They get the kills accordingly. Great job from C-Mac just to try and get those 2 kills. Isn't able to, or get all 3. Got 2 of them, but Redbird COD showing resilience and winning an offensive round that on Gavitu definitely means more than what it would on Tuscan. They could close this one out here.
Yikes. A lot of those engagements, you get to close quarters, you try to finish it with a punch, you aren't able to go ahead, find the final bullets, or the fist to the face. Allows your team at least to get a bit more of an advantage up the map. Saint gonna get knocked down. Dreco, nade over the top, should be able to clean that player up. Just gonna be able to connect with the nade, however, Leo Bears has now started to push up into the spawn side of the opposition. There. Number 7, Flop, who was pushed up as well. You still have a streak to work with here if you are Redbird COD in the back pocket. It's going to depend on when you want to use it.
C-Mac did a great job over at Green. Once again, for Colonel Esports, they're finding good success at this A site whenever they can get one player pressed up into Green and just force these players to have to hunt them off spawn. They do just that. Now with 2 minutes to work with and a 3 life advantage, really can work this B site, and we could possibly see 2 offensive rounds, 1 back-to-back on Gavitu. Granted, there's still a lot of control left and a lot of map for Redbird COD to take over. Leo Bears winning those gunfights definitely makes it that much harder. They're able to find him and work their way up to beach side. Colonel Esports, can you bounce back from taking that round loss? Can you get... Really, it takes 1-4 down to get enough clearance on a site and then holding on from there, but this Redbird's COD squad, they're a hard one to penetrate here on Gavitu. It's hard to get in whenever they aren't giving anything up.
You read from the middle of the map. After you get that 4 down, you know where they're going to be spawning. You know where you're going to have to push yourselves at. And once you read that there's nobody through the middle, then you instantaneously can say, well, they're going to be pushing over towards the beach. And then you can start picking them off one by one. Dreco slides over towards the tank. Going to be able to start making progress on that beach site. Flop with incredible shots directly onto the head. Is going to be able to win that gunfight. Snaps back to C-Mac, who's just going to have to play behind the rock for the time being to re-challenge up with a little bit more HP. Now, if you're Flop, you can back off just a bit. Wait for the reinforcements to come off spawn. Because on the other side of the map, you still have Saint, who's trying to make the push play happen. You're going to be able to find at least one across the map. And now Saint's going to be also on a 5 spree looking for more streaks as well as Flop.
They could close this here, even if one of them can get streaks. They could just play spoiler on this round and really not give Colonel Esports a chance. Up 2-0, I'm impressed with how they are playing this. Granted, Colonel Esports once again find themselves in a position where they kind of choked when they had an advantage, lost a round that they shouldn't have, had an offensive round that they could have worked to close out. Let the lives get a bit too drastic, but with these players calling in streaks now, you know the site's going to be wiped. You got to find a way to stay alive if you are the player up at the site. And this Redbird COD squad, again, looking a bit too powerful here in the respawns.
Dreco, once again, the only one pushed over towards that B site. You still have player number 1, Invasion, all the way at the top, P1, but you're not going to be able to get really any sort of information or intel from that player. He gets cut down, 2 versus 11, 5 seconds left. You got to get across the map. Leo Bears cuts down the closest one. We'll say goodbye to Colonel Esports' hopes and dreams of winning around here on Gavutu. The Redbird COD roster comes out and socks him in the face. Congratulations, you've won Gavutu technically 3 times.
Redbird COD make a statement once again in a respawn up 3-0, and the control is a wonderful way for them to go into this Tuscan map number 4. Whenever they took a hard loss on the side of Colonel Esports, they were able to spawn big. Unfortunately, you have to respawn big in a respawn, and that's a mode that you have not been able to find much success in tonight, ever since your first little scrimmage, I guess is what we'll call it, on that first go-around. So, Redbird COD, they're playing great. They're answering back how they need to. They took a tough round 11 loss. It could have been a 3-0, but they're going to try to close it out here in 4 for Colonel Esports. You've got to make something big happen. Of course, you have to win the next 2, but more importantly and more pressing of a matter, you have to win a respawn.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll take a look at our maps here in a second, but before that, we'll look at statistics. And Cash, you know, one glaring thing that I saw, obviously from just watching the mini map specifically, was how many times this Redbird roster were able to not only influence spawns, but the fact that they played so well when they were singled out on an island. I can name how many. I think it was like 3 or 4 times where Saint was just by himself, and he was able to win huge one-on-ones, one-on-2 gunfights that completely influenced the way that the map was played. And every time 1 or 2 kills came in from Saint or Flob specifically when they were pushed up in the spawn, all of a sudden, everything changed, because then they could just keep the spawn trap going, kill after kill after kill. It continued to come through. 26 and 21 there from Flob. Everybody basically at the 20s, but on the opposite side, nobody positive for Colonel Esports. And now Nickel stayed down with a 1-2 deficit. You clutched up in the S&D to tie the series up 1-1. But after our replay went on Gavutu, Cash, it's going to be difficult for them to win a respawn, or more specifically a hard point, at least in my mind.
I couldn't agree more. And for the side of Redbird COD, I just want to mention, also piggyback, what you were saying there for the control, the way they were able to move around the map. You're able to influence the spawns like that whenever you can put the pacing and the tempo on the other team. Redbird COD, they were in control of it in its entirety. Whenever they needed to collapse or clear out a site, they were able to. Colonel Esports went that entire control, 2 offensive rounds without getting a single tick of progression at B. So just wonderful job by them of knowing where they need to be on the map, like you said, to manipulate spawns, to know exactly where they want to funnel players through. And I expect nothing different going into this Tuscan hardpoint. It's also a map where rotations are going to matter. Really, Bocage is the only one where you can kind of get away with that. Where rotations matter, Redbird COD have been on top of it tonight, especially since that Gava 2 hardpoint where they won early on in the 100-point club. So for Redbird COD, I expect to see them close it out here. Colonel Esports have to respond big, and they have to correct several mistakes that have kind of built up over the respawns. So they're going to have to string together a miracle. For Redbird COD, can you close it out? Can you avoid getting this push to a Game 5?
If you're just joining us, technically we played 2 hard points on Gavutu to start this off, but there was an issue that forced a full map replay. Colonel Esports did look extremely good inside of that hard point. It looked like they were going to go on to win that map potentially, but Redbirds, they started to bring it back bit by bit towards the end of that series, and rather at the end of that map. And then of course we had a couple players get knocked out, so we had to restart that map. But the second run back of the hard point was 250 to 97, and it was not close on Gavutu. Tuscan though allows for a bit more opportunity to get aggressive with your SMGs. We really haven't had that opportunity in the series thus far. However, that also can favor the side of the Redbird Call of Duty roster a bit more as well, because we know what Leo Bears and Flob can do together around the map, given the opportunity to run with the SMG. So, first hard point pop, 10 seconds off the clock already. It's the Colonel Esports roster who gets into the point first, but Flob with the first blood on the board and wave a nade over the top is going to be able to allow the Redbirds roster to push back onto the site.
Colonel Esports are going to look to try to get as much of this time as they can, and looking ahead, get pushed across the map and try to influence these spawns in their favor for P2 now. Just over 30 seconds off the clock here. Redbird COD in control of P1 and looking to extend their lead. A route potentially being made by C-Mac through the mid-map to try and get over to P2 and push these players out. Now you see a couple more arrows looking that direction as well, but just as I say that, Redbird COD are also on the retreat, trying to cut these players down and win these gunfights on transition. You get a substantial amount of time over at P1. Now you have a 3v1 on the site for P2. They look to have the first bit of time. Gonna go their way.
Gavutu, it was Redbirds who were able to get out and rotate early almost every single time when they were able to complete their 100-point club of Colonel Esports. In the map that it was extremely close all the way down to the wire, where both teams were in the 200s on Gavutu. It was both teams being able to have success on specific rotations, but more importantly, it was Colonel Esports who were able to get out early and win those opening gunfights on specific kills. And that's what they've been able to do here, at least on P2. 25 seconds already ticked off. Most of this was heavily contested, and Boost comes up big with the MP40. If you're Dreco there, you really got to win those one-on-ones, because that allows the Redbird roster to not only spawn on P2 continuously, but now as they start to spawn out across the map, this is where they were dangerous on Gavutu, because they started to string hills together, and you cannot allow that to happen on Tuscan.
This 1v1 is going to be huge on the backside of the map as you look at P3. Hunter is able to win it, but just as I say that, players for Redbird COD already on rotation trying to find their way there. It's really Hunter left alone in a 3v1 situation as these players have to work their way across the map. Flob picks that up, grants the team the ability, as you mentioned, oh so dangerously, the ability to chain this hill to P2. Granted, it was contested for most of it, but they still walk out of here with a 40-point lead. The collapse coming in from Colonel Esports, and they're not able to capitalize just yet. If you're Redbird COD, you hold on.
Beautiful bunny hop over toward the left side of the map. Cuts down Wajan from the middle of the map. Everybody spawning on that north portion. All those red arrows starting to make their way back towards point 3. Flob in the back, though. One more kill. You'll have the glide bomb here inside of this Tuscan hardpoint. Nobody wants to challenge it just yet. Right now, the good news is you've gotten everybody out of the hill if you are Colonel Esports, so they're not getting any time off of this. But Flob is going to connect for number 7 in a row. That is going to be streaks earned now for Redbird COD to use at a later date. And as you look back over towards the middle of the map, back in P4 by the church, Colonel Esports for the first time have gotten themselves a solid rotation. You just got to make sure player number 6 and Leo Bears can't disrupt that process.
And as you say that, player 6 and Leo Bear looks to disrupt that process, but Colonel Esports, they hold on for the time being. Getting this initial bit of time, they have to stop this wave of break attacks. from Redbird COD, but once again, it's Saint on the flank in the back, the pinch potential coming in on this hill. Doesn't matter, the teammates get it done in and around the site. They find themselves clearance. That's going to be 4 down. They are in P4 now, growing their 50-point lead to what's going to be over 100 points if they hold on to the rest of this. Redbird COD, where they found success on Gavitu the second go around, is they're playing together and letting their individualities really allow for big plays that their team could push behind. That's what they're doing here, and Colonel Esports need to look to find a way to respond here by also having some big individual plays to get some momentum.
Yeah, big turnarounds like that can spark and ignite the flame within a roster. C-Mac once again is going to be able to find number 3. Dancing, dodging around corners. Will find the 4th one here on the point as well. Sure, it's only for scrap time, but at least you're going to get your team bit by bit closer. You snap back around into the middle. Oh, I thought maybe they might have lined up for 2. Unfortunate team kill back over by P5 is going to come in. Dreco is going to be the last one on the point. Flob and the rest of the team now on Redbird COD can start making this happen. Free aims all the way towards the door. Saint, second kill there with a nade around the corner. Dreco will still hold on. Right now, you're just playing the contest game. Colonel Esports still trying to get their way back into this game.
Dreco in that life did about everything he could to get the reinforcements in. Unfortunately, no one was able to come in as a supporting role and get onto this site. Redbird COD still firmly in control of this hard point, up 60 points. And you have Saint on the top side of the map winning those gunfights as you look ahead towards P1. We'll make our way back there, but just with firm map control. I mean, look at how many of these players are pressed beyond the 50-yard line of the map, cutting these players down off spawn, making Colonel Esports have to earn not only every kill, but every bit of real estate on this map. Leo Bears on a pinch play. It's just so many angles you have to check for Colonel Esports. They're just unaware of where these players are. They know they're going to be somewhere behind them possibly, but it just takes your attention off the hill. Now the flank coming in, and the glide bomb as well. Not even going to need to be used as these players are going to line up in the spawn for 1.
They spawn so close together, and although you don't get the circle telling exactly where those players are, you can still see them running around like ants on the map. Satan down to the bottom of the church wins a huge one-on-one there versus C-Mac. But what really opened the door here was Flob and Saint running together in towards the bottom of the church. They cut down 2 players that allowed the streak off of the spawns. Complete break in towards the point, and this is almost a rerun of what we saw in the second replay of Cafu 2, because it's a 100-point lead now for Redbird to the halfway point in the game.
They're just imposing the pacing on Colonel Esports. It's Colonel Esports once again having to fight for every bit of progress, not only on the map but on the hill. I know I'd mentioned that as we came back to P1, but the kill feed is just going 4 for 1 every time we look at it. Redbird COD are playing loose and hot, and Flob is on 10 right now, just untouchable at the moment. Again, because we saw that first play round of Gavitu, I have to wonder what happened. I don't know if something happened with Colonel Esports or if Redbird COD woke up. I just can't believe we saw the first play round of Gavitu that we did, and now we're here. But hey, for Redbird COD, you're playing like the number 22 team in the CCL, especially in the respawns. They lost in an unfortunate round 11 on the Search and Destroy. This very easily could have been a 3-0, but now it's just a ranked playground for them at the moment.
I mean, the respawns have been night and day between these 2 teams. Yeah, sure, the Search and Destroy was close. It was around 11, yeah. But in the hard points, in the controls, there has been no sort of sustenance from Colonel Esports to show me that they have what it takes to beat this Redbird COD roster. Sure, maybe map 1 was a bit of a stretch, but even the Redbird roster was able to go ahead and bring that game back. So at this point, you're up 200 to 67. All you need is about 47 seconds to win this game. And then it's all GG said and done. Yeah, you got to break a few more hills, and it's not over till it's over. But at 28-14 and 30-9 from Flob, this is a performance for the ages.
This is a clinic being put on by the Redbirds here. They're in and on the site. You have to go if you're Colonel Esports. Now you can expect solo chows to come in and just pick those off as they come. Equation opens up with 1, but that's quickly answered. Yeah, you find yourself on this, but again, it feels like it's only prolonging the inevitable. You have such a mountain to climb. It would have to be beyond perfect hardpoint to do this. It's really just a matter of when can Redbird COD get back in. Of course, they can't win it on this one, but would you look at that? They have the rotation to P4, and Colonel Esports have to get every second of this time.
I mean, for me right now, this is just kind of feeling like the game of, all right, let's not get 100-point clubbed again like we did in map 1. And they're just kind of like trying to cling on to that. And then that turns into, all right, let's see if we can get to 150. And then maybe if you start playing the best Call of Duty you've played all season, that turns around, and then potentially you find yourself with an opportunity to then win the game. However, C-Mac and Draco, though, they're going to be in towards the bottom of that point. In by the church. You can now start pushing out the backside of the spawn. You know where they're spawning though now because you have the information of Draco getting cut down. Hunter going to be there for a one-on-one engagement with Leo Bears around that left side corner. Now everybody trying to break on in. It's a beautiful team push here that's been put together by Redbird COD. That's 3 down. You look for the last one all the way out and towards that right side. Draco actually is able to survive for half a second, but now the contest is going to come through. He'll get shot in the back, and now everybody's just going to start to shuffle in through the side door into the church.
Somehow, Colonel Esports have prolonged this to a P5. For 2 hills, they have pushed this off, but they're playing a little bit better, and that's great. It's just a little bit too late for them to really start to find footing on this map. Redbird COD maybe taking, I would say, a hair off the gas is all, but you get over 100 points, you string together a fairly successful P4, and now you have the rotation to P5. A few gunfights have to go your way, of course, and a lot of points also have to be shoveled your way, but Redbird COD, they win the gunfight, now just needing less than 15 to win it. They look to do that here, but once again, it's Colonel Esports trying to make a stand.
5-bit Colonel Esports just trying to get hill time. Bob's going to stay alive. The second one's going to fly in through the doorway with the pistol body shots to go ahead and pepper a few more in. 10 seconds is all the Redbird COD roster needs to close this series out in a 3-1 win. Looking towards that side door. Finally, they're going to break in for a half bit of time. Boost in the corner. He needs to win a one-on-one versus Hunter, and then, of course, a second on Tuasian to get it there. They can really just give up this 30 seconds, rotate for 3 seconds time, and then win the game off of that. But what's the fun in that?
Coming in from fire. Redbird COD collapsing in and around the site. Colonel Esports have to get every second of this and make the rotation. That doesn't look to be the case. Boost wants to win this one by himself. Unfortunately, falls with that gunfight, but how massive would that have been to have won it on a bit of scrap time? Rotation now coming in, and Redbird COD, they're pushed up to line. They're pushed up to mid-map. They have all the presence and positioning they need. Now just needing 1 second. They're going to win it in 4. A clinic... domination, whatever you want to call it. This is a wonderful Respawn show that they have put on. Again, the last week of regular season, this is that top form you want to be in. We said they had the potential and the habit of playing down to teams. Maybe in that first look on Gavitu they were, but a switch had to have flipped because this, like you had mentioned, is day and night compared to what we saw initially if you were around for that. Redbird COD, not playing down to their competition, at least what we can see any longer. They come out and take care of business here.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess you can kind of make the argument maybe they played down in the first go about at Gavutu. After that, it was a completely different story. Obviously, the search and destroy, there's a blemish there, and there's a lot to be improved on from your S&D play, but the respawns are once again the standout for Redbird COD. Illinois State University has had a tremendous season when it comes to respawn, and that has not slowed down one bit against Colonel Esports. So that is a surefire lock for Redbirds to now get into the playoffs. And then on top of that, Cash, that also goes ahead and gives them better positioning going into the playoffs than Colonel Esports here inside of Tier 1, inside of the Midwest Division. So that game was like kind of big, but at the same time, you know, it puts Colonel kind of at risk now of maybe not making the playoffs. Again, it's going to be a long shot for them not to make playoffs on an automatic lock, but then that would just send them to the LCQ, and they should very handily get through a few teams inside of there. But overall, looking at the statistics, you look to Redbirds and 14 and 15, or 41 and 15 from Flob, excuse me. 36 and 21 from Boost. You look to the opposite side, and at the end of the game, there were just more playing catch-up. At the State 100-point club, you only lose by 105 points. GG's, handshakes to Tuasian. Thanks for coming out. Everybody else on the roster didn't have a great game either. Colonel Esports, it's back to the drawing board for respawns. You have to be able to figure it out against very good, comparable teams like Redbirds that can not only put together strong hardpoint games and respawn games alike, but play the map so well together as we saw here in this Best of 5 series.
They're really just a couple pieces away from clicking all of that. Came out, they put the pressure on that first play round of Gavitu. They got the map control. They came out hot and really put the stunner on Redbird COD, forced them to have to adjust. That's what they have to try to replicate in and out of every respawn. Of course, that's very hard to do. It's not easy to come out and instantly take control of the pacing and be winning all of your gunfights. A few pieces have to fit together in order to make that happen, but look to have more consistency on your starts. Of course, we said even on that first play around, Redbird COD was able to bring it back some, but finding a way to close it out, they've done that in the Search and Destroys. On the respawns, you got to start hot, maintain your mid game, and still be able to close games out. I know that essentially is the recipe for perfect hardpoint, but they can find a way to string that together. They've shown signs of it. It's not impossible for the squad. They definitely have the potential to make a really good postseason run as well. Like you said, they're all but an auto lock for playoffs. So again, had a very successful season, look to continue in the postseason. They just need a couple things tightened up, and yeah, they could be really scary.
Absolutely. Well, we'll take a look at our map set one more time here. We'll run back from map 1 on Gavutu all the way through the Tuscan. It was a 250 to 97 route of Colonel Esports that Redbird Call of Duty was able to put in on Gavutu. We went to the Desert Siege. It was a round 11. That was a barn burner all the way down to the end. A lot of defensive round wins, and then all of a sudden a switch flipped, and then everybody figured out how to play offense. And then, of course, it was Gavutu in Tuscan with a control and a hard point that went down, I was going to say to the wire, but it really wasn't close, that the Redbirds were able to take care of, send home, lock up, and ship away with a 3-1 victory over Colonel Esports. Nicholls State University, Illinois State, I'm sure we'll see them later down the road when we get into the playoffs. Either way, that's not done here for tonight. Obviously, the Alpha stream has 2 more games to go. Bravo is going on at the same time as well. But if you're here for the next matchup, I don't blame you. St. Edward's going up against the Ottawa Braves. It's going to be a fun one. Andy and Seymour will take you through that one. That's going to be Seymour Cast and Proper Cast, of course. They're going to bring you all the action here throughout the rest of the night on Alpha. Myself and Cash will be back at 10:30 on the Bravo channel, so if you want to stop by and watch some COD there with us, you're more than welcome to do so. Either way, we're going to send things to a quick break. When we come back, St. Edward's, Ottawa Braves, in a fight down to the death.